This is all about the functions, guys. Now if you want to know what is actually a function in case of JavaScript, okay, most of the time you will use the functions in each and every programming language where you're gonna define, because there's a multiple advantages of the functions. Just if you have write a one piece of code at one time, if you want to execute the same piece of code in your program at multiple times, so you don't have to write the same code again and again. Just you can simply invoke the same function, or you can simply call the same functions to call the particular function here. So if JavaScript function is a block of code, okay, designed to perform a particular task, and now just you have to execute when you're gonna invoke, or you can simply call in simple method is calls it. Okay, so let's suppose if you have write a particular code in this particular block, you will give a name of that block as well. Okay, you can simply give a specific name. I will let you know the syntax as well. Okay, and now whatever code you have written inside this block, if you want to execute that particular code 100 times in your whole program, so you don't have to write the same code again and again in your program. Just what name you have defined for this block, you have to return that particular name here before the function. Only you have to write that particular name, and you will be able to execute the whole code again and again in your program at many times. That's actually a function is. So let me move forward, clear the notations and go back. So if you want to discuss about what is the syntax of the JavaScript functions, okay, there's a few syntax you have to understand. Okay, one, you want to define a function, just you have to use a one keyword. Keyword are the reserved word what you are using inside the JavaScript. So which keyword you're going to use? The function is a keyword to define a new function here. Okay, you will also know about the anonymous function as well in advance. Okay, so where you will not use a function keyword to define the function, just you can simply define the functions directly. But the point is, when you are trying to define a function, first of all you have to use a function keyword. After that you have to define the name of the function, okay, followed by the name, and you have to use some sort of rules to define the name of a function as well. Okay, function names contain the letters, digit, underscore, and the dollar sign. Okay, you cannot use another, just what if you know the rules to define the identifier, the same rule you're gonna use inside the function name as well. Okay, and now the function name is followed by the parenthesis as well if you want to define any function. Sometimes just you can simply use a empty parenthesis as well. Okay, but sometimes you will pass some parameter as well. So this is a one syntax to define a function here. If you want to define a function, just first of all I have used a one keyword name function. After that, the function name, what name you want to set for this block. Okay, these are the parameters. All three parameters are the optional. Either you can simply use one parameter, two parameter, three parameter, and the parameter is used to change the behavior of your function whenever you're gonna call your function again and again. So according to the parameters, the behavior or the output of the function will be changed. Okay, and now what code you want to execute multiple times, just you have to follow that particular code into the curly braces. Okay, this is a curly braces, and now the code you want to execute, you have to put all the code inside the curly braces. Okay, that's how you would be able to define a function inside the JavaScript. So let me clean on. So let me move forward to the next point. So if you want to know how you would be able to invoke the function, okay, just sometime when an event occur when a user click on button. Okay, if you want to invoke a function from the DOM, right, when a user will click on top of any button, when you're gonna right click on top of your strings, okay, there's a different event will be occurred there. That was a one method to execute the JavaScript function. Either sometime you can simply invoke code from the JavaScript code, or sometime the function will automatically call self-invoke using some sort of set timers and the timeout. Okay, so there's a multiple method to call your function as well. And now there's a one more thing you have to understand inside the function, that will be a return. So return is a statement you have to write inside the function. And now it's also optional. If you will not write a return, you will be able to define the function as well. But when you will write a return, so when JavaScript reaches a return statement, your function will be terminated or will stop at executing on that point. If you have write more lines inside the function after the return statement, but those lines will not be executed. Once the return statement has been executed inside the function will stop the executing on that point. Okay, Now the point is why you are using return here. So the point is function often compute a return value, right? If you have calculated one value from where you have called your function, the return value is returned back to the caller. Okay, when you are trying to call any function, let's suppose this is a one example what I'm going to write here. Okay, so let's suppose you have write a function of any name. Okay, what do you want to do? If you want to add two numbers, or if you want to camel case your string, whatever you have defined, so there's a multiple method. If you want to swap your string, right, or you can simply check out the palindrome of a string, so you can use multiple type of function. The main point you have to understand, if you are trying to call any function, let's suppose I'm going to pass two arguments, right? So this is an operator what I'm using here to call my function. The point is when I'm trying to call my function, it should be return anything to you. Okay, so just you can simply use x equal to here. So what happened, because you are trying to call your function from this statement, that's what I have written here. The return value is returned back to the caller. So from where you are trying to call, so it will return the sum of both the numbers if you have already defined a function name as add. Okay, and what you will get from here, so you will get 30, and 30 will be initialized inside the x. That's how the return statement is work inside the function. If it will return not anything, just it will return the undefined value there, right? That's how the return statement is work inside the function. And why we are using a functions here, so you can reuse the code. Okay, define the code once and use it many times. Just I have told you, if you have already defined a function, just you can simply use the same function many times in your program. Okay, you can use the same code many times with different argument to produce the different result. That's why you are using an argument, because just I have told you that recently, if you're gonna add two numbers, the numbers could be anything. Each and every time when you are trying to call your function, just you can simply pass a different number. So always it will give you the different result, right, according to the argument what you have passed. So that's why you are using an argument there. And this is the one note, the operator invoke the function. So this is the one operator you're going to use to invoke or calls your function. So this is a method to call and define your function. So let me open the practical. Okay, let me close this PDF. And now we have to understand how you would be able to define all these things. So first of all, what I'm going to do, so I will create a one file to understand the function. So I can simply took any name, function.html. That's how it works. And now I'm gonna insert the boilerplate. Nice. And just I'm gonna insert a one external JavaScript sheet as well. But the name I'm gonna choose function.js as well. That's cool. Let's create this particular sheet. Okay, the sheet has been created. Let me. This is not a sheet. This one, let me set the title as well, functions. Open the Firefox one window here. Okay, let's adjust the width of the windows, and that's how you are able to see. That's good. Go live and you will get the one title there. That was a function, right? So let me go to the function.js, and now here I'm gonna write my program of the JavaScript. So the point is, what I want to do, if you want to define any function here, just I have told you there's a multiple method to invoke your function as well. So first of all, I want to define a function. So let me define a function using the function keyword. Okay, and the name of the function could be anything. If you're gonna take that same example what I have used recently, add, that's cool, there's no issue. And just you have to define the body or a block of a function using the set of curly braces. What I'm trying to do, let's suppose I'm going to define few variable here. Let a is equal to 10. This is just an example to understand. Let b is equal to 20. And what I want to do, let's suppose I want to print the sum of both the numbers. So I'll define another number. Just I'm going to add the both numbers here. Okay, that's how I'm going to work here. Now the point is, let's suppose I want to print the sum. Just I can simply use any method. Either you can simply write using this method, write, and what do you want to write? I want to write the C here. That's cool. So I'm gonna save. Okay, and you will not get anything here because I didn't call my function and the function name is add. Okay, so the point is, if you want to invoke your function, just you have to write the function name and just you have to pass this particular operator. Okay, and this particular operator will call your function and you will get the result on top of your screen. I'm gonna save my function again. Instantly you will get the 30. Okay, the point is how many times you're gonna call your function, all the time you will get the 30 results. Okay, there's a no issue. That's how it works. The point is, but I want to change the output of my function according when I want to call my function. Always it will take values from me. So that's why you're gonna define the few number of arguments there. You can define multiple arguments. It's your choice. You would be able to define the arbitrary argument as well, right? So there's no need to define these variables here. Okay, the variables you'll get already from there. But the point is when I'm trying to call my function here, okay, so it will give you the NaN. Why? Because actually behind the scene your functions node has been executed, because you'll get a one error. What the error? Because if you are trying to call your function, you didn't pass the arguments, so the parameters A and B. So always you have to pass the number of parameters there. So let me pass 10 or 6. Just I'm gonna call my function again, and you will instantly get the 16 there. That's how it works. Let me pass a different parameter, 10, 20. You will get the 30. If you want to give a one break here, just you can simply do using this method, document.try, or either just I can simply put the break along with it. No issue. That's good. Just look at this. How many times you want to call your function? Just you have to change the values, and you will get this. Each and every time you will get a different result from your function. That's how you'll be able to define the functions here. Okay. And now there's one more thing you have to remember, guys. When we'll discuss about the object, okay, inside the object you have to understand the different thing as well. Okay, there you will try to understand the property as well. Okay, I will explain the property and you will understand the method as well. So actually methods are called the functions. The functions, when you will define inside an object, those functions are named as a method instead of function. Okay, if you're going to define any function inside an object, instead of calling that particular function, just you have to use the method terms there. Both are the same things. The point is, now you have to understand this is a one chapter define your function. Okay, so there's a multiple example. Just you can simply understand. If you want to return something from your function, just you can simply use this method as well. So let me explain. Let's suppose what you are trying to say, you're gonna use a one return statement instead of printing this statement here. What you are trying to return C. Okay, that's how you are trying to do. Now the point is, when I'm trying to call my function again one more time. Okay, that's cool. I'm open the console as well here. Okay, if something is happened, you would be able to see on top of console. Okay, so I'm gonna save my program. Okay, the point is you didn't get any output on top of the arrow, and also you didn't get any output on top of console. The console.log. The point is you have passed the values. This line has been executed, and it will add the numbers of your as well inside the C. And now at the end, when you are trying to call your function, it will return the value of C. But the point, when you are trying to call your function, you didn't accept the value, what value have been returned from the functions. Okay, so just you have to store that particular value inside any variable. The variable name could be anything. Okay, let's suppose I have used the X variable here, and once I have stored the value inside the X, just I can simply write that particular value. Okay, on document, or either you can simply print that value as well on top of the screen as well. It's your choice what you will use here. So let me save, and if you are able to see, this is a 30. So what I have done, just I have used a one return statement. So when I'm trying to call my function along with 10, 20 parameters, both the values according to the sequence have been stored inside the variables. Okay, so 10 will be initialized inside A, 20 will be initialized inside the B. After that, the second line will add both the numbers and store inside the C. And at the end of the function, it will return the value of C from where you have called the add function. So the add function has been called from this line. So that value of the C will be stored inside the X, and you can simply do anything along with that value. What do you want? That's how you're gonna use a function here, right? So this is a one example to understand. And now this is a one method, guys, and now you can simply use multiple method to define the function as well. And now we have to understand the concept of the array and the object as well now. Okay, because that was also a very important thing you have to know. Array and the object. In the previous session, we have get the idea, okay, how you would be able to define the arrays and the object. Because in case of array, just you have to use a set of curly braces. My bad. Just you have to use a square bracket to define your array. Okay. In case of object, just you have to use a set of curly braces. But just recently, I have told you, okay, sometimes the candidates will be confused between the property and the methods. Okay, from which method I can simply call. So the point is, in the previous session, we have also learned about the multiple methods and the property of the string object as well, right? That was a different data structure what we have learned to do the string manipulations. So now let's suppose if I want to store a array here. So what I want to do, so let's suppose I want to define an array, and the array name could be anything. Let's suppose I'm going to take some candidate's name from the chat box. So the name, okay. So I can simply use a square bracket to define the array. Okay, if you want to check it out, just you can simply use a type of operator for that as well. Okay, so I'm gonna use few names here, Ankush and the Avinash, and I'm gonna take one more name. Okay, that's cool. So this is a one array I have defined, and the name of the array is I have took the names. Now the point is, if you want to print the whole array, just you can simply use this method, and the whole array will be printed on top of your screen. That's how you can simply use. Now the point is, when you are discussing about the array, right, you know very well how you'd be able to fetch the values from the array. Just use a simple method, and that particular method will be called indexing. The first element index of your array will be 0. Okay, the next will be 1 and so on 2. So the index number is a number. Just using the index number, you can simply fetch the element of your array. Each and every element inside your array have their own unique index number. Okay, the index number will start from 0, and you will be able to fetch your array. This is a normal method. Now the one more point, let's suppose if you want to do some slicing in your names, just you can simply use a square bracket for that, right? Just if you are able to see, you will get the whole array. Okay, Ankush and the Avinash and the Choco, all the names you are able to get on top of your console. Now the point is, if you want to print any one of them name, just if I want to print the Avinash, just I have to use the index number of the index number of the Avinash is 1. Okay, just I have to put 1 here. Just I'm gonna save, and you will get the Avinash name as different as well. Either just you can simply look at this, each and every element have their unique index number, 0, 1, 2, and all these things. Okay, and this is the one thing you are able to see, the length, right? The length of the array is 3. But the point is, when you want to use some properties and you want to use some methods of the array, because array is a special type of object which is already defined in your machine. Okay, just you have to use it. But the point is, there is some sort of, let's suppose if I want to print something instead of different this thing, so let me call console.log. Okay, what I want to print, let's suppose I want to print the length of my array. What is length? How many elements you have stored inside the array. To print the length of the array, just I'm gonna use this method. Okay, and what is actually a length? So length is a property of the array. When you are trying to call any property, just you don't have to use a set of curly braces. Okay, you don't have to use that particular thing, because when you are trying to call any property of any object, this is the one object you have defined. Okay, and now this is array is a one special type of object you are trying to calling, and inside the array you will get a multiple property, and you will get a multiple methods to manipulate the things of your array, to change the behavior of your array as well. So length is a property what I'm trying to use, and now this particular property will give you the length of your array. Okay, this is 3. And now if I want to talk about the methods, let's suppose I want to add a one more value inside the names. Okay, to add a one more value, the earlier the value was 3, right? Ankush and Avinash and the Choco. Let's suppose I want to add a one more value. So on that time, just I have to use some methods of this particular object. Which method I'm gonna use? So if you are able to see, all the methods look like this. If you are able to see this particular square box, right? So this is a one method to add more values. The pop is used to remove the values, to reverse your array, to shift slice from shared splice. So there's a multiple methods you can simply use along with it, right? If you want to check out the index number of specific element, just you can simply use the index of there, right? So there's a multiple method you can simply use, and the length one is a property. So let's suppose if I'm going to use a push method, okay, so when you're trying to call any method of any object, then you have to use a set of curly set of parentheses there. What I want to add, let's suppose I want to add the AD here. That's cool. Once you have successfully add, you want to print the same name again. This is a method. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, I'm back. So yeah, array is also a special type of object. Okay, so I will let you know, don't worry about this. So if you are able to see, guys, just look at this. Now you have successfully add a one more element, and the element name is AD, right? How you would be able to add this element? Using the method of the array. What method I have used? The push method. So just you have to use yourself all the methods. Okay, you would be able to use, just you have to do the hit and trial, and you would be able to understand all the methods. Push, should use, reverse, shift, slice, on short, slice. Okay, so all these are the method you can simply use. If you want to add to array one, just you can simply use a concat method of that. Okay, so if you want to simply use a pop method there. Okay, this is a one method to understand. What I'm gonna do, just look at this. When I'm trying to call pop here, so pop will remove the value of your array. It will remove the last value of your array by default. Just look at this. The AD has been removed again. If you want to remove one more value, just look at this. It will remove the two value, AD and the job. That's how the pop method is work of the array. Okay, hope you got the idea, guys. So the point is, let's suppose, let me move forward to the next thing. Okay, that will be the object, because hope you got the idea of the array, guys. And now how you can define the array, just you have to use all the properties and all the methods by own self. Okay, you have to do the practice for that. I will share the one PDF where you will get the all methods, okay, with the examples as well. So the next thing, we have to understand the objects. And what is actually an object? So if you have heard about the object, right, the object oriented programming language. Okay, now object is a very cool thing inside any programming language. Using the object, just we can simply fetch the different properties and all these things. Now the point is, if you want to define any object, the first thing you have to remember, inside the object all the things are stored in a pair, and inside the pair the first thing will be the key, the second thing will be the value of that particular key. The key should be unique inside the object. Just if you are able to understand, inside the array, if you are able to see, this is a one pop, okay, this is a one another push. So all these are the key inside the array object. Okay, so let me define all this thing, not to worry. So the point is, if you want to define any object here, the name could be anything. Either you can simply take an array, but that particular identifier, what you are trying to use, that particular identifier should not be a keyword. So let's suppose instead of that, I'm gonna define a candidate here. Okay, so that's cool. Inside the candidates, what I want to define, so this is a one object what I'm trying to define here, and now you can use a multi-line method as well inside the array as well. Okay, it will not make a difference when you are trying to define any values. So the first thing, I want to define a one key. The key could be anything. Either I can simply use an integer as well, or either I can simply use a string as well. So let's suppose I want to define a string. A string will be names. Okay, that's how I can simply define. The point is, this is a key and the value could be anything. Let's suppose I want to define a one name, the name I'm gonna use Sachin here. Okay, that's cool. The second, let's suppose if I want to define, my bad, just you have to use a comma to differentiate all the values inside the array object. The second thing, I'm gonna mention the age. Okay, so just I'm gonna use the value of that particular age will be integer. Okay, that's how this is a string, and the another one is a integer. Okay, okay, the next thing what I have to use, let's suppose if this particular user have been enrolled multiple courses, okay, just you can simply use this method as well. And inside this, just I have used the first data object was a string, the second one is integer, third one is also a list as well. Okay, instead of list, that was an array as well. Okay, so here let's suppose if that particular candidates have been enrolled multiple courses, just you can simply define here. Okay, this is a method. Inside the object you can also use a different data structure. Let's suppose I'm going to define the JS here and the multiple more. Okay, so I'm going to use this one. So that's how I can simply identify. Then one more thing, this is a one, right? Let's suppose I'm going to define one more thing here. What I'm going to define, so let me define the one thing, details or the view. You can simply define anything here, right? So let's suppose I have defined a view, one more key, and inside the view either you can also define the function as well. Okay, this is your choice. You can simply define one function as well inside the array, and to define the functions just you can simply use this method. Okay, and when you are trying to define any function, just you can simply define the function name. Okay, I will let you know as well, okay, later. Just you have to wait for that particular moment. So I have defined a one object, and inside the object I have used a three key. The first one, name, age, and the course, and all the keys what you have defined inside the object, that particular key should be unique. If you will not use a unique key, okay, so the earlier value of that particular key will be replaced by the new one. Just you have to understand. If I'm gonna use the same key name, just look at this, the age I have already used the first one. After that I have used age one more time. Okay, it will not give you any error, but the earlier value have been replaced from the new one. That's how you have to understand. Let's suppose if I'm gonna print my console.log, okay, what I'm trying to print, the candidates. Okay, so what it will give you, just look at the values of the whole things. I'm gonna open the object here. This is a age is 25, okay, but the earlier I have defined 22, that have been replaced by the new one, right? That's why I have told you each and every key should be unique in your object. The second, I have defined the courses. Inside the courses I have defined another array. Inside the array I have defined multiple things, and the another one will be the name, just if you are able to see. And all the keys are the unordered collection of the unique keys. Okay, just you have to understand this particular thing. If you will not define the 22 here, either I can simply comment this line as well. Okay, this particular line will not be considered inside the object. And just look at this, you will be able to, age is 22 right now. That's how you can simply look at all these values. Okay, the key inside the object should be unique. That's how you can simply define the object here. Now the next thing, what I need to do, let's suppose if you want to fetch any one of them value, okay, how you would be able to fetch this particular value, just you have to understand candidates.courses. Okay, that's how we have already fetched this type of element. If I'm gonna use, so only you will get the all courses. If you want to fetch any one of them, just you have to use, because now this is an array. The earlier one, that was an object, just you have used a dot there. Now when it will become an array, you have to use a square bracket for the slicing. If you want an ansible from there, just you have to use tooth for that. Okay, it will print the ansible. Just look at this. That's how you can simply do the slicing inside the object and inside the array as well. Okay, so the point, just I have told you, this is a one method, right? And now all these are called the properties of the object. Okay, and now the one more thing, just I have told you what was a method. So if you want to define any method, the method could be anything. So let's suppose if you want to define any method and what method you want to use. So if you want to know the summary of the student, right, just you can simply define a method name is summary. And what it will do for you, either you can also set as a property as well, it's your choice. So the point, just you have to define a function inside an object, and you have to define the value of the function as well. This is a block. Either you can also put the value arguments what you want to define. But the point, if you want to return something here, or either if you want to print something on top of console, it's your choice what do you want to do. Okay, this is, either you can simply return something from here, but what do you want to return? Let's suppose the name, I want to return this particular string, name of, or either candidate name. Okay, just I'm gonna use this method because I have used a backtick, guys. I'm gonna mention the name. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, dollar and the age as well. So done. So this is it done, what I have done here. So let me say what I want to do. So the point is, let me say the things here. This is no issue, but the point, let's suppose if I want to print console.log, I want to print the name of the candidate. Just I can simply use this method, right? And you can simply look at the name of the candidate here. But the point, if this is a property of the object, what I'm trying to calling out, these are the manual property of the user defined object. If you want to print any method, so summary is a method. Okay, a summary is a method of the candidate's object what you have defined. Okay, this is called arrow function what I have defined. So just I'm gonna call this. What happened? It will give you the array and the what actually you got it. So that was a string and it was not able to print on top of there. So not to worry, edge is not defined. Okay, so it look like behave in a variable. Instead of using this, just I have to use this dot name and this dot age. That's look good. Right, it's working now. And now what I have done, just you have to understand, guys, this actually, this is also a keyword which will initialize the, if you want to look at this. Now the point where we are using this, if you're gonna just highlight this property here, so this will consider all the blocks where you have defined name, age, courses. This is used inside a function if you want to fetch the properties of the own element, okay, of the same object. That's why you are using this keyword inside the JavaScript. This keyword will define, this keyword will be allowed to fetch the properties of the same object inside the object. That's how you're gonna use it. This using this you are able to fetch the element of name, because instead of that, just instead of this, just you have to define the candidates here if you want to fetch the name. That's why I have used this property here. So this will allow you to fetch the local values of that particular object where you are trying to use this keyword inside the JavaScript. So that's how you are able to understand. So this is a one I have defined. Summary is a method I have defined for the candidates. If you are trying to call this method, so this method will return the candidate summary. Candidate name is Sachin and the age is 20. That's how you can simply use this method, guys. Okay, so this is a user defined object I have defined here. Inside the object I have defined some sort of properties. Okay, and this is a one method I have defined. The method name is summary. Either you can also pass few argument as well if you want to pass. Let's suppose if you want to add one more course for the users, okay, you will not be allowed to add the course inside this particular thing, but you can add. But sometime you want to add multiple courses or you want to update anything inside the object, that you can simply use this method for that. You can simply take a particular number as a argument and just you can simply manipulate these values using this particular function. Let's suppose if you want to update, because if you have taken one example of the array, right, inside the array, just you are trying to call the push. What it will do, it will add the more element inside the array what you have already defined. Just same thing you can also do, same method you can also define the here. You can also define the push mechanism, right? And now this is what I'm trying to do. So this is a one key I have defined, and inside the key just you can define any function and what do you want. It's your choice. Inside this function, what do you want to add? Let's suppose you want to define one more property, you can add using this method as well. Okay, that's how you can simply use these methods. So all these are the methods what I'm trying to define inside the object. So this is a very easy thing, as a little bit complex as well when we will discuss about the array, object and the functions. All things will be used at once. Okay, just to have to get the idea how you would be able to use all these things. So let me okay, most of the candidates have been confused inside this as well. Okay, if I'm trying to get one picture of this as well, just give me one moment. This in JS, just I have told you this is used to fetch the properties of the same object where you are trying to use this inside the object. Just look at this. Let's suppose, so if you are trying to use this keywords, okay, just you have defined a myvar 200, but you can simply print this particular value as well. But the point is, when you want to use this particular myvar inside the same function, okay, then you have to use this keyword there to fetch the same value of the same object inside the same object. That's why you are using this keyword. So this keyword refers to the object it belongs to. Okay, it has a different values depending on the where it was used. If you will use this keyword inside the different object, so it will refer the all values from it belongs. That's how this keyword is work inside the JavaScript. So here, that's all about the functions, guys. Okay, how you can simply define the functions, how you can simply call the functions. There's a multiple more method to define the function as well, if you want to invoke the functions using some sort of method. So let me give you the one example to understand all this type. So let's suppose to an example what I'm going to trying to do. So I will create a one table here. Okay, so the point, let me explain the first of all one task what I want to show. Okay, how you can simply use the functions, or how you can simply set the events inside the JavaScript. So what I'm trying to do, so first of all I will create it one table. Okay, and the table, you know very well, inside the HTML I can simply create a table. Inside the table you can put any values. Okay, so the point, this is a type of table I'm trying to define. Okay, that's how it's work. Now the point, using the JavaScript I have to add multiple rows inside the table. Okay, that's our task. Just you have to add multiple rows inside the table using the JavaScript. And first of all you have to understand how you will be able to fetch all the properties of that, and then you will be able to understand all these things. Okay, so first of all let me create a one very basic sheet of the HTML. Okay, you have to create a one table. Okay, after that you will be able to understand all these things. So let me wrap up this particular sheet. Okay, let me create a one more sheet for that. So let's create, and the sheet name I'm gonna put table.html and the table.js as well. Inside the HTML I'm gonna wrap up, that's cool, boilerplate, and I have add a script my table.js. That's cool. I have to insert a one table here, right? To insert a one table, there's another thing, just you can simply do the little bit changes here. Okay, this is the one very basic syntax I'm going to write inside the body, and just you can simply use a table tag here. We can simply define a one heading table. That's cool. Go live, and you will be able to see the what changes I'm trying to do here. Just look at this. Oh, let me add the sheet here. That's the table, and now you want to inside a table, just you can simply define all this thing here. This is a first row. Inside the row I'm going to define a first TD. Inside the TD I can simply define row 1, shell 1. Okay, that's how you can simply define. So let's suppose you want to define the border as well. I'm going to define the ID as well. The ID could be anything, sample table. Okay, and now I'm gonna define the border as well, 1. That's how it look like. So let's suppose I want to add more TDs here. So I can simply add the row 1 and the shell 2. Okay, that's how it works, guys. So let's add one more TD, row 2 cell 1 and row 2 cell 2. Okay, that's how it works. Now the point is, let's suppose, what do you want to do? This is the one method what you have defined here. You want to add more rows, you want to add more columns, okay, using the JavaScript. So for that, what I'm gonna do here, so let me add a one button, and I'm gonna use input method for that. Inside the input method, the type should be button. Okay, and I'm gonna add a one more event. This is called a JavaScript event. Okay, there's a multiple type of event we can simply use. So on can play, on double click, on scroll, when you're gonna scroll your mouse, on select, on hour. So there's a multiple type of event you can simply use. So I'm trying to use a on click event. When I'm gonna click on this particular button, so my JavaScript function will be called. So, and now just you can simply took any function name. Okay, let's suppose you want to insert rows, just you can simply use this function name. Okay, so you can simply use any type of function name. So I'm gonna use a insert underscore row. That's how. At the values of the table, just insert, yeah, add more. Okay, that's how you are able to see. This is add more button. When you're gonna click on this button, okay, this particular JavaScript function has been executed until yet, but you didn't define this JavaScript function, right? So that's how it works. If you want to fetch the whole table, this is actually a DOM I have already defined, I have already show inside the first session, right? Just how you would be able to fetch this particular element just using this particular ID, okay, using the document of the JavaScript. So that is a one HTML hierarchy of your values, okay, but when you are trying to fetch all the values from the JavaScript, there you will use a DOM, okay, document object model. Okay, in a tree structure you have to fetch all the elements, just you have to change the element as well, and that's how it works. Now the point is, what I'm gonna trying to do, just remove this particular all these things, comes to the table.js. This is a sample dev table I have defined, and now I'm trying to define the function, what function will execute when you will call on this insert row. So I have to define a function here, guys. So let me put a function name. The function name should be same what I have defined there. So this is a function what I'm trying to use, insert. When this particular function will execute, just to have to change, just to have to manipulate those rows and the columns. To manipulate, first of all you have to fetch those things. So I'm gonna fetch those things inside a variable, just using the same method, document, and that particular element have a unique ID name as sample table. Just you can simply use this particular thing. So document get element by ID, and the element will be sample table. That's how you can simply use. Okay, if you want to print, just look at this, don't be confused. If you want to print this particular thing, just you can simply print all the X inside this value. I'm gonna show you. So when I will click on this button, so what happened? So when I have clicked on this button, this function has been executed, and this function will print all the values of the sample table on top of console. Just look at this. This is the whole table you are able to see. But I have to fetch few elements from them. Okay, I don't want to use the whole table structure, right? So for that, what I need to do, instead of printing, so just I need to insert the rows there, right? I want to insert rows. Just I can simply use this method, insert okay, and row. That's how I'm gonna use. So this is a one element I'm trying to use, and now this is a HTML table element. This is a one method I can simply use inside the index, and where I want to insert on top of 0. That's how I'm gonna use. Okay, the second thing what I want to define, let's suppose I'm gonna define one more variable. Okay, so the point is, let's suppose I want to insert shell as well. So just you have to call the same function, and on which, on 0 index. So first of all I have add a row, and after that I want to insert the one more thing here, zx, the same thing. I want to insert a one more shell, on which index, 1. That's how I'm gonna work. And now if you want to add text as well inside the both things, just you can simply add the text as well using this method. In our HTML, what HTML you want to define there, new shell 1 and new shell 2, and instead of, that's how you're gonna use. So that's done, guys, and now I have defined all these things. Let me click add more, and if you are able to see, this is a method. When I'm gonna click on add more, so first of all this function has been executed. Inside this function it will add a one row. This is a one row has been added. Inside the row I'm trying to add the first shell and the second shell as well, on top of which index, the 0 index and the first index. Either I can simply add the shell at the bottom of the table as well. Okay, this is your choice. Once you have add both the things, just you have add the inner HTML text as well, the first new shell 1 and the second time new shell 2. That's how it works. Again and again, when I'm going to execute the same function, you would be able to see it will add the values until the things. So that's how you can simply use the JavaScript functions and the events to manipulate your DOM object as well. Okay, either you can add a one more function. Okay, this is a one normal task, not an assignment. Okay, just you have to try to do it yourself. You have to add one more button here. That particular button will be able to remove the rows what you have recently added inside this. Okay, if you're gonna click on that particular button, row or delete row, just that particular event should be delete a one row. When you're gonna click on that particular button again, that particular button should be able to delete the another row as well. Okay, this is a one normal basic task. You have to try it yourself. Okay, this is a one thing, guys. If you have any doubt, just let me know. The chat window is open. I'm gonna check your doubts. Okay, the first assignment I think you have already get from the Slack workspace. If you didn't get, so I'm gonna talk him or today. Okay, you will get the first assignment today if you will not get, guys. Okay, and the second assignment you will get in tomorrow. So the get element ID, what's the use of it? So let me explain, don't be confused. So just you can let me know if you are confused in each and every statement. So the get element ID is a method of the DOM object. Okay, and using this method, just you can simply fetch the elements from the HTML document. That's where I'm gonna use this particular method. So we will discuss about the DOM in brief as well into the next session, don't worry. Okay, this is a one example to understand how you can simply use this particular method of the document, and this is a one method to fetch the elements in its hierarchy of the tree from the HTML document. Using this method, just I have manipulated the few of these things. Okay, so all of you confused inside this particular thing, don't be confused there. This is actually next topic is as well. This is a one task. Okay, how you'll be able to manipulate the all these things inside the DOM using the so all these things we will learn in brief in next session, and that particular session will be on tomorrow as well. So please don't be confused if you are not be able to understand these things, because this is actually little bit advanced concept instead of, because these are the very basic thing. But if you didn't get, so let me explain all these things in tomorrow's session as well from brief. If you have any further doubts, yeah, insert shell is the predefined method of the HTML document. Okay, this is a insert row is also a predefined, and the insert shell is also predefined. Okay, so inner HTML is nothing, just inner HTML is used to change the inner HTML of these elements. Just this is a one TD, right? What will be the inner HTML of this TD? This is a raw one, shell one. So this is actually inner HTML, okay, inside the HTML document. In case of JavaScript, just you have to fetch the inner HTML of any shell using this property. Why we are using an insert row with zero index? Because we are trying to insert our new row on top of zero index. You know very well what is zero index. Zero index is the first element of your array or a table. So that's why I have used a zero, because I want to insert the row on top of zero index each and every time. When you're gonna click on add more, just look at this, it will add a one row on top of zero index. That's how it works. No, delete button is not a task actually. That was actually normal, not an assignment. That was actually this task you have to try it yourself for practice. Okay, the assignment you will get in tomorrow's session, the second assignment you will get. If you have any further doubt, just let me know. You will get the recordings from the Slack workspace, guys, not to worry. Just you can simply contact with the team of the skill center. Any further doubt? Okay, there's one more, Sushant. If you want to use a -1, just you can simply try to use it. -1, save all these things, add row. Okay, what happened? Just look at this. What happened? So it will add the shell at the end of your table. That's how you want to use. When I have used a -1, it will add the shell at the bottom of your table instead of 0. That's actually the index, because -1 index is the last index of your element of the array or whatever you're gonna use there, right? So that's how you can simply use. So if you have any further doubt, just the chat window is still open. You can simply let me know in 3 more minutes. Okay, so no doubt, guys. So okay, arrow function, actually when you'll discuss about the arrow functions, just you have to use a equal and the greater than sign. Okay, arrow function most of the time we have used for the anonymous function. If you want to define some type of anonymous function there, you don't want to define any name of the function, then you have to use arrow functions there. There you don't have to define the name of your function, and there you don't have to use the function keyword as well to define the functions. With that type of function I call the arrow function. I will give you one example in next session, don't worry. Okay, why we are creating a new function as an insert arrow? Actually I have created one function name as an insert arrow. This is the only function I have created. This function is used to execute this when this particular function will execute using this event. This particular event is called a on click event. When I'm gonna click on this function execute and insert a one row in your table. Yeah, you can also add the column as well, guys. Okay, insert your all table. Okay, just you have to use a column function for that. Okay, just you have to understand all the functions of the document. I'm using the document is the, this is a DOM, and we have already discussed many more in the first sessions of the JS. So inside the X and Y, just I have add a one insert shell object, because just look at this. When I'm trying to fetch this element, so this particular shell will I have when I'm trying to use this method, right? So insert row is a method. So when you are trying to call this method, it will return a one object. Okay, what that particular object you have stored inside the X. When you have stored a one object inside the X, just inside the object you can also call multiple method as well. So inside that particular object you are trying to call a different method name is insert shell, and this particular method will return a one another object. That particular method object will be the Y. Okay, when you are trying to store Y, so inside the while there's the multiple properties, the only one property you have used name as inner HTML. That's how it works. Okay, so yeah, you can print, but there's no sense to print all these cells, right? Just you have to execute all these things. So let me wrap up this session, guys, and see you tomorrow next session. Goodbye.